So in January of 2010, the FDA passed the Food Safety Modernization Act. And essentially what it does is it gives the FDA a little bit more power to more quickly determine the cause of an illness, so they can get down their reaction times to usually about less than 2 weeks. And then it is also making regulatory some of these food safety audits that we've been talking about. And they essentially released two different standards that are pertaining to fresh fruits and vegetables, like we've been talking about. And the first one is the growing, harvesting, packing, and holding of produce for human consumption. So essentially the first standard is GAPS, the good agricultural practices. This is sort of the growing environment, the harvesting, and then selling environment. And then the second standard is essentially the good manufacturing practices or good handling practices. And then this is also the good manufacturing practices, hazard analysis, and risk-based preventative controls. The second part has a lot to do if you are a packing house that is buying produce from other growers, as well as, you also might be growing your own food. But a lot of auction houses that I've worked with are very worried about the second standard because even they're only an auction house, a grower will pretty much show up, sell off their food to a buyer, and then leave. They are probably going to be forced to comply with the second standard. And essentially what the Food Safety Modernization Act does, it will give the FDA the authority to perform on-farm inspections. So essentially, depending on the size of the farm will be required to have an FDA inspection once every 5 years. And then they're expected to have a food safety plan and documentation. And really where this differs from the third-party audits that we've worked with before was that this is mandatory. So this is a regulatory agency that's doing this. Farmers don't have the option to opt out. They can't just say, you know what, I'm not going to sell wholesale anymore. I'm going to stop selling to Giant or to Wegmans. This is going to be required. Some of the big sections that the Food Safety Modernization Act, or FSMA, addresses are water quality. It looks like in the proposed regulations, it looks like the water quality standards are going to be exactly the same as what we shared with you, the 126 colonies per sample, that sort of standard. The manure standards are going to be very similar. However, according to the proposed standards, they've lengthened the time period between applying manure and harvesting the product to 9 months, where it used to be 120 days. So it used to be 4 months, and they're trying to extend that to 9 months, which essentially will make it very hard for organic growers to use any kind of manure for vegetable production. And then it also addresses worker hygiene and animal health and wildlife and using livestock.